Tonight, one person killed and 4 people seriously injured in separate shootings across the city.
Police arrived and located a male inside a vehicle with gunshot wounds.
Shot and killed in his car and several suspects at large. 28-year-old Lawrence Errol John is Toronto's 94th homicide victim of the year.
I think the public should be relieved that Mr. Millard will not see the light of day, of course.
No parole until he's 102. Dylan Millard is handed the longest sentence in Ontario history. And an amazing Christmas gift, a 6-month-old. Here's her mother's voice for the very first time. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. We are following a developing story this hour. We're just in about a 5th shooting in our city in the last 24 hours. This one at Keele Street and Ingram earlier tonight. The victim taken to hospital suffering life-threatening injuries. This capping up a very busy day for Toronto police, who have multiple investigations underway, including a murder. We'll get to that in a moment. Kelda Yoon reports from the scene of a shooting this afternoon on Driftwood Avenue in the Jane and Finch area.
This one left a man with serious injuries. Police say there were reports of a collision right before the shooting. One person is now in custody, but police believe there are more suspects out there.
It makes me nervous everywhere, not just here. It's very sad that people think this area is like that, and it's not.
But the area was the scene of another shooting this morning, this one fatal. Emergency crews were called around 6:15 to an apartment building on San Romano Way. A man was found shot inside an SUV. He died at the scene. There was also a woman in the vehicle. She was not hurt. Toronto police later identified the victim as 28-year-old Lawrence Errol Joel John, making him the city's 94th homicide victim of the year. Police are still searching for suspects.
We are at this time looking for 3 male black suspects wearing dark clothing who fled in a northerly direction, possibly getting into a white hatchback.
Then at 10 a.m. in the area of Bathurst and St. Clair West, a man was found suffering from gunshot wounds.
He got shot in the side and once in the leg. He's actually my roommate, and I hope he's okay.
The victim was taken to hospital with serious injuries. Police are looking for 2 men who fled the scene. And this is where the day of violence began. Police were called to Crittenden Square near Finch Avenue and Tapscott Road just after 1 in the morning. A man in his 20s was rushed to hospital after being shot multiple times. Police say a gray car was seen fleeing the scene. A gun was also found nearby. The man's injuries are serious, but he will survive. As the day comes to an end, Toronto police are continuing to investigate all 5 incidents. Anyone with information is asked to call them. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Meanwhile, 2 people have serious injuries after they were stabbed multiple times. This taking place in the Rexdale area. Officers found both victims in a school parking lot near Finch Avenue West and Silverstone Drive, almost near Martin Grove Road. After receiving reports of a robbery around 6:30, a man believed to be in his late teens was rushed to hospital in life-threatening condition. The other, a man believed to be in his 20s, was taken to hospital in serious but non-life-threatening condition. Police say a number of suspects fled the scene and got into a dark-colored car. They're believed to be armed and dangerous, and police say they should not be approached. And police say a very serious gas leak in Yorkville has been capped. The gas line in the area of Davenport and Avenue Roads was leaking for about 4 hours this afternoon after being struck by a car just after 4 o'clock. Paramedics say no one was injured in the collision. All roads have since been reopened. We have some incredible footage to show you of a high-speed police chase looking like something out of the Fast and the Furious films. It started when a police helicopter spotted a gathering of drivers doing donuts in the middle of an intersection in Pickering.
The intersection shut down, and they're doing donuts in the middle of the intersection. Looks like all street racers.
Durham police say early Sunday morning, close to 100 cars and pedestrians shut down the intersection at Altona and Finch, spinning their tires and shooting all of this on their mobile phones. When police officers arrived on the scene, though, they fled.
We got 2 cars that are taking off northbound here, guys.
Police stayed.
Yeah, we just had multiple vehicles collide in front of us and take off.
Police stayed on 2 of the cars as they sped away. They had to stop following one out of safety concerns, but tracked the other one, a gray BMW, onto the 401. It headed east, reaching speeds of up to 173 kilometers an hour. The police helicopter tracked it as it reached Toronto, then to a gas station near Morningside in Shepherd. That's where the driver was boxed in and arrested. 24-year-old Tony Chow of Markham is now facing multiple charges, including failing to stop for police, dangerous driving, and street racing. Colette Kennedy's here with the first look at the forecast. We've got a warm-up on tap for tomorrow.
Do we ever, Mike? Yeah, we're looking at some really mild temperatures, running about 5 degrees above seasonal in terms of the highs we're going to be seeing around the GTA for hump day as we head through Wednesday. What's ahead overnight tonight? Well, do have a little bit of cloud cover out there, kind of like through the day today, partly cloudy skies. We'll start off tomorrow morning with a bit of cloud in there too, but it should be higher cloud, and we're going to see a good amount of sunshine, especially once we get past that. So there's going to be nice sky conditions in play with the mild temperatures that we're going to be seeing. Now, things will change up as we get towards Thursday. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in the show, and it'll be late day Thursday before we start to see precipitation moving in. Overnight tonight, -4 around the region, feeling like -8, so still a bit cool, but you won't be feeling cool tomorrow afternoon, 5 degrees, and again, we'll have plenty of sunshine in there, Mike.
All right, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Convicted murderer Dylan Millard will not be eligible for parole until 2088. He was handed a third consecutive life sentence in a Toronto court today for the murder of his father. Now, it is a rare move in Canada and unprecedented in Ontario. Chris Glover reports.
The families of Dylan Millard's 3 murder victims now know he'll be 102 years old before he can apply for parole.
I think the public should be relieved that Mr. Millard will not see the light of day, of course.
Millard was first convicted and sentenced for killing a complete stranger, Tim Bosma, then an ex-girlfriend, Laura Babcock.
If there ever was a reason to punish to the full extent of the law, this was it.
And finally today for killing his father, Wayne Millard, shot in the eye while he slept.
When you've lost a loved one, it's hard to have any empathy, really.
Yeah.
And we see the aftermath.
Victim Services Toronto says the rarity of this sentence matches the crime.
Knowing that someone who is such a monster is going to be behind bars until his dying day is a relief for everyone.
In court, Millard's lawyer called 75 years for the 3 murders extraordinarily harsh and excessive. It's certainly extraordinary. Since the death penalty was abolished in the 70s, only Justin Bourque has been sentenced to this harsh a punishment for killing 3 RCMP officers in New Brunswick.
What we want to avoid is having sort of extreme sentences to sort of satisfy some thirst on the part of the public to see people punished harshly.
This defense lawyer argues even before the federal government changed the law to allow stacked sentences, Canada's treatment of murderers was severe.
That any life sentence is a very meaningful punishment, and that there is a lot of protection built into that, as is. So you can argue that it's not necessary to stack them up in this way.
2 upcoming court cases could have Crown attorneys asking judges for similar sentences. Accused killers Alec Manassian and Bruce MacArthur are both accused of killing multiple people. However, this still remains quite a rare set of circumstances. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Premier Ford coming to the defense of his longtime friend Ron Taverner today. Questions continue to swirl about whether there was political interference in his hiring as the OPP's new commissioner. Now, with that appointment on hold with an investigation underway, the NDP is now asking for a public inquiry into the matter. Lorenda Redekop has the latest.
And I've never received more calls from frontline OPP officers, ever.
Premier Doug Ford spoke about the controversy for the first time since an investigation was called. It's looking into the hiring of his longtime friend, Ron Taverner, and whether the Premier played a role. For now, Taverner is once again a Toronto police superintendent.
There's never been a more popular police officer in this province than Ron Taverner. Let's be very clear about that. Everywhere you go, You hear nothing about positive things.
But that's not what politicians from the other side of the House say they're hearing from current and former police officers. Ford wasn't in the legislature to respond to questions. He attended the opening of an Amazon office during question period. The opposition hammered away at the government.
Will she admit that we need an investigation by the Ombudsman and by members of this Assembly before this appointment can proceed?
That friend was not even qualified to apply for the job that was originally posted.
They called for a larger investigation.
Will you support a full public inquiry by the Integrity Commissioner?
The Minister of Community Safety responded that the Integrity Commissioner is already doing an investigation. And she sounded pretty confident about the findings.
When the investigation is complete, I will be right at the front of the line to congratulate Ron Taverner and welcome him as the Commissioner of the OPP.
The Liberals had a problem with that response.
The minister's already sort of acknowledging that he won't find anything. That's wrong. That is completely wrong.
The Premier also denied parts of a letter to the Ombudsman from the former interim OPP Commissioner that Ford wanted a kitted-out OPP van but kept off the books.
That's just a baseless claim without merit. It's just not accurate whatsoever.
So you didn't want a customized van or anything?
No. You know, I asked for if they had a used one.
These details about the possible purchase of a camper van come from Brad Blair. He's the current deputy commissioner at the OPP. He was in the running for the commissioner job, and he's been a fierce critic of the process. He went to the ombudsman calling for a review. That was denied. Now he's gone to the courts trying to force the ombudsman to review this. So in total, we've got 3 different levels of investigations being talked about here. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
I hear that. Yeah, I hear that.
Giving the gift of sound. Coming up, we'll tell you how Sick Kids gave this 6-month-old the chance to hear for the first time, and we'll tell you about the technology that made it happen.
Welcome back. Good news from Canada Post for all of you who are still crossing your fingers that your holiday parcels will arrive on time. It says it has mostly cleared the backlog caused by its workers holding rotating strikes. The company says its normal holiday delivery service guarantees have been restored everywhere but Vancouver. It had previously warned that delays could last into January. The federal government ordered workers to end job action 3 weeks ago after Canada Post complained the package backlog was reaching historic levels, something the union disputes. Toronto Community Housing is getting the go-ahead to hire more special constables. The Police Services Board increased the capacity from 160 to 300 today, but that doesn't mean they'll all be hired right away. The head of the Toronto Community Housing Community Safety Unit says 26 new constables are currently being trained. More than a third of the city's shooting deaths have happened on TCH property this year. That's a 10% increase over last year. The parents of a 6-month-old girl have something extra special to celebrate this holiday season. Last week, they watched her hear for the very first time. As Taylor Simmons tells us, a new screening program helped specialists spot her hearing problems early, allowing doctors at sick kids to intervene.
I hear that. Yeah, I hear that.
It wasn't that long ago Julia Tirabasso worried her daughter Francesca would never hear anything. That is until 1 week ago when doctors switched on this green light and gave her the ability to hear.
Okay, so that was 2. It was so subtle. I think I was expecting her to turn around and say, hey, good morning. So it was just subtle. It was looking down and then looking up. And it was unbelievable.
It was neat to see almost a new world open up for her. Yes. In the way that she looked up.
Francesca was born with congenital cytomegalovirus. It's an infection contracted during pregnancy that can cause hearing loss.
It is the most common virus that pregnant moms can get exposed to, and it's only in that degree of exposure, so when moms get it when they're pregnant, that it can be passed on to the child in a way that can cause hearing loss amongst other things.
Francesca is the first baby to have the virus detected through a new provincial screening program. If a newborn fails their initial hearing test, doctors can now send a blood sample to test for the virus. They say the earlier they catch it, the better.
Babies hear when they have normal hearing, even in utero. And so the beginnings of speech and language foundation happen right away, when a baby is born. And we don't want a child to fall behind.
About 900 babies in Ontario are exposed to the virus each year, and 1 in 5 of them experiences hearing loss.
Ciao, Francesca.
In Francesca's case, doctors decided to fit her with a cochlear implant, attaching small electrodes to the inside of her ears. And already, her parents can see the difference.
Like, she's had this toy for a while, but obviously she didn't know that it, makes a little bit of noise. So the first time it was quite incredible.
Now, Francesca will grow up just like any other baby.
Santa Claus was very good to us this year, and we couldn't have asked for anything better. I hear that.
A special gift just in time for Francesca to ring in her first Christmas. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Toronto.
A special gift indeed. Well, a new organization in Alexandra Park has set its sights on reducing gun violence in the city. The group has plans to launch programs in underserved communities, and they want to start that push in the boxing ring. Nick Boisvert has more.
This used to be full of kids. This is where we grew up playing, right? This would be the epicenter of activity in our community.
Alexandra Park can feel like a ghost town some days. People who grew up here say it wasn't always like this.
Tables that actually had chessboards on them, so you can sit and you can play chess and whatnot, right?
So
they had tables set up there. You can actually see the holes in the ground.
Oso Aggie's childhood home is just around the corner from Alexandra Park's basketball courts. As a kid in the 90s, he remembers decent after-school programs, mentors, and even the occasional field trip. He doesn't see the same opportunities today.
It doesn't expose them to different aspects of life, like different areas. If you're just stuck in these 4 walls, meaning Queens, Spadina, Bathurst, Dundas, then this is all you're going to believe the reality is.
The reality of 2018 has been a lot of this.
Police arrived and located a male inside a vehicle with gunshot wounds.
Near Jane and Finch this morning, the city recorded its 94th homicide of the year. A new group out of Alexandra Park is trying to keep more kids away from guns.
Jab cross, Bob cross.
With the help of a little controlled violence.
We're a group of ex-gang leaders and ex-bad guys who have come together to try to divert kids from taking the wrong path that we took.
Next weekend, the group is hosting a charity boxing match with former Jays catcher Greg Zahn. The proceeds will go towards new gang prevention and anti-bullying programs. People say the community and its kids need the help.
A lot of these kids just don't know their worth. They don't understand the power that they possess and how they can affect the change in the world. So they join a lot of groups that they feel welcome them. And
But maybe that could be boxing, that could be science or something like that.
Right, exactly, which is where this one-by-one thing is amazing.
The new programs are scheduled to begin in January. Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
Hook.
Well, it's not a rocket of a shot, but this was good enough for Patrick Marleau to tie Rocket Richard in the record books. We'll have highlights from the Leafs match against the Devils after the break.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
The Leafs hoping to avoid a 3-game losing streak in New Jersey tonight. The Devils were on a 2-on-1 there. Morgan Riley deflects it, leading to this Leafs 3-on-1, and it's John Tavares who puts it home. Minutes later, Austin Matthews would make it 2-0, and then coming up in the first, a big goal for Patrick Marleau. His 544th of his career. He now ties Rocket Richard. Toronto breaks out of its slump, beating New Jersey 7-2. Colette is back with her extended forecast. Things are looking great tomorrow, but I was hoping for clear skies overnight, Colette. I've been wanting to take the binoculars out to look for Comet Wintanen in the southern sky above Orion, but I don't know if I'm going to get the chance tonight.
Yeah, it's just even a little bit of cloud cover out there, and with partly cloudy skies overnight tonight, maybe not ideal. Certainly having to get away from the lights of the city as well. But let's have a look at our almanac for this date in history. Record snow 18 centimeters back in 1963. I know we're getting closer and closer to Christmas, and folks are wondering if it's going to be a white one. Well, I bet that year that probably stuck around. Never know, they could have had a mild spell in there too. The outlook for us, we're going to see some dry conditions tonight. Just some of that cloud cover in there will hang into tomorrow morning. So kind of a mix to start the day off, and then more sunshine as we move through the lunch hour and through the day. A little more cloud cover comes in later in the day again, and then becoming more overcast as we get into Thursday. And that's as the system approaches. But our winds are going to be out of the southwest, and with this warmer air pushing in, the temperatures are going to be mild for a couple of days. We're going to see this before things start to cool down towards next weekend. Now, it'll be late day Thursday, it looks like, before we see the showers moving in, and then rain showers into Friday as well. Southwestern Ontario, you'll see those showers a little earlier on Thursday. But for tonight, just increasing cloud, low -4, and for tomorrow, a lovely 6 degrees with a lot of sunshine again, maybe a little more cloud cover to start the day off. The winds will be picking up, getting a little gusty, gusting towards 30 to 40 kilometers an hour as the day wears on. Overnight tonight in the GTA, this is the range we'll see in terms of our temperatures, -3 to -6 with those partly cloudy skies. And then there we go with that mild day that we'll see tomorrow. Again, more sun a little later on in the day with those southwesterly winds and sticking around these mild temperatures. So even as we go into Thursday, 5 degrees, late day, we'll see the precipitation moving in. Could be somewhere 10 to 15 millimeters. Still a little early to tell in terms of the amounts, but Friday still wet, 5 degrees for the high. And you know, winter comes in at 5:22 p.m. on Friday, and it'll start to feel more like it as we head into the weekend, but not so on Friday or for the next few days, Mike.
Not at all. Imagine if that was snow on Friday, though. Certainly.
Oh boy, well, there'd be some happy faces out there, I think.
Thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Julie Payette is adding one more title to her impressive resume. She's, of course, the Governor General, an astronaut, engineer, and once again this year, choral singer. That is Payette there rehearsing at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. The Governor General is part of the choir performing Handel's Messiah for the next 2 nights. Now, some of you may be surprised to learn that Payette has been singing her whole life, long before she took to space or Rideau Hall.
I started when I was 8 years old in a choir in Montreal at the cathedral, and I've been singing all along. Just before I took this new position, I was singing with the Montreal Symphony Orchestra in the choir back in Montreal, but I was on my first time. I also sang with them when I was at McGill University.
This is Payette's second year singing with the NAC choir, and yes, in case you're wondering, she did have to audition, just like everyone else. And a quick reminder before we go, our Sounds of the Season fundraiser for GTA Food Banks continues until the end of the month. And look at these numbers, a big update for you today. You have helped push us over the $500,000 mark, raising more than $518,000 as well. Check that out, 17,000 pounds of food. A majority of that food donated came through students around the GTA as part of a school sort challenge. You can donate in person here at CBC or online at cbc.ca/SOTS. And thank you once again to everyone who's donated already. Tomorrow on Q, there's an encore of Tom's interview with Bryan Adams. He's talking about his move to musical theater. Adams helped compose the new Pretty Woman musical on Broadway. Yeah, it's the one based on the Julia Roberts film. That's 10 a.m. on CBC Radio 1. See you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.